Our commodity that we are going to talk about is rice. There is 4 stages of growing rice. The first phase is germination. Germination in rice occurs when the first shoot and roots start to emerge from the seed and the rice plant begins to grow. To germinate rice, seeds need to absorb a certain amount of water and be exposed to a temperature range of 10 to 40 degrees Celsius. This breaks the dormancy stage of their seed. When planted in flooded soil, the shoot is the first to emerge from the seed, with the roots developing when the first shoot has reached the air. If the seed is planted in non-flooded soil, the root is the first to emerge from the seed, then the shoots. The second phase is vegetative. The vegetative phase is characterized by the development of tillers and more leaves, and a gradual increase in plant height. The number of days of the vegetative stage varies depending on the variety of rice, but is typically between 55 to 85 days. The early vegetative phase begins as soon as the seeds germinate into a seedling and ends at tillering. The seedling stage starts right after the first root and shoots emerge and lasts until just before the first tiller appears. During this stage, seminal roots and up to 5 leaves develop. As the seedling continues to grow, 2 more leaves develop. Leaves continue to develop at a rate of once every 3 to 4 days during the early stage. The late vegetative phase starts when the tillering begins, which extends from the appearance of the first tiller until the maximum number of tillers is reached. This typically happens 40 days after sowing. The stem begins to lengthen in the late tillering stage and stops growing in the height just before panicle intation about 52 days after sowing, which also signals the end of the vegetative phase.
Third stage in growing rice is the reproductive stage. The first sign that the rice is getting ready to enter the reproductive stage is when bulging of the stem conceals the panicle, called the brooding stage. Then the tip of the developing panicle emerges from the stem and continues to grow. Rice is said to be at the heading stage when the panicle is fully visible. Flowering begins a day after heading has completed. As the flower opens, they shed their pollen on each other so that pollination can occur. Flowering can continue for about 7 days.
The fourth stage in rice production is the ripening stage. In this stage, the rice plant begins to flower. The nutrients from the stems and leaves of the plant are brought up to the rice grain. After about 30 to 45 days, the rice is mature and ready to be harvested. During harvesting, the first thing the farmer needs to do is drain the paddy. The paddy is the part of the field that is filled with water for the rice to grow in. After that, the rice is cut off the plant using a sickle, scythe, or a machine used to harvest plants. This is a sickle. This is a scythe. And this is a machine that is used to harvest plants. Once the rice is cut, it is left to dry for 2 to 3 days. Later on, the farmer uses a technique called threshing, in which the grain of rice is separated from the rest of the plant. Some farmers do this using a threshing machine. and other farmers do this themselves by hitting the plant against a pallet and collecting it at the bottom like this farmer does. Afterward, the rice is stored again and then is either dried or milled. To get white rice, the rice has to be milled to get rid of the outer layers of the rice. Brown rice, however, is kept with the outer layers, which makes it more nutritious. I hope you learned a little bit about how rice is produced and enjoyed our video.